Mike, good to see you. How you doing? How you been, brother? First one in. Artistic, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Hi, Miles. How was your weekend? It was busy. It was a very long weekend, I'll be honest. Dale, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Mac, evening. Good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Hey, my brother. Larry, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? How you been? All good. Let's go, Mike. Evening, Miles of CMF. Good to see you as well. Joe, how you doing? How you been? What's up, Miles? What's up, CMF? Can you kindly give us the lineup tonight on what news you're going to be putting out? Yes, definitely. Share the news. Let's go, Larry. Hi, Miles and family. Troy, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Something's going on with X. It says broadcast not available, just so you know. That's not great. Okay, 1 second. On my side, it says streaming is available. Is it still not available? X is limping. Hi, Miles. Is here. Troy, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Something's going on with X. It says broadcast not available, just so you know. Even below Miles, funky brother, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hi, Miles of CMF. Dennis, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? How are you today, Miles? I'm doing great, Lena. How you doing? How's things? X is limping. Good morning, Miles. How was your day? What a crazy weekend we had. Definitely facts. Doing good. Better it wasn't a night shift. It's not you. X's bring cyber attacks. X got hacked today. Yeah, I heard regarding X getting hacked today. I thought by now it would be essentially resolved. Seems like it's not. Because on my end, Restream, it says it's available on X. But it's not. Yep, it's not. It's on one server only. Error. Yeah. Okay, now on my side as well, it's saying X is error. Okay. Let's do something. So let's do a post on X right now. Hope it works. Yeah, it's still not broadcasting, is it? Okay. I want to create a post right now on X and say, join us on YouTube. YouTube. Because X is having difficulties. Yeah, the hacking situation regarding X, I thought, by the time we go live, it will be fixed. It seems like it's not in any sort of a way at all. Sorry about this, everyone. This is not the way I thought today was going to go on the live, but it has. Okay. Join us on YouTube because X is having difficulties. Should I put the YouTube link? I think I should. Sorry about this, everyone. Okay, here we go. Host. Okay, I made a tweet and said, join us on YouTube because X is having difficulties. Okay, let's go back into the chat. It's fine on X. So it's working on X again. But on my side, it says it's not connected to X. That's the issue. Hi, Marcel. George, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Messi, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Let me try again. There is an attack on X. I couldn't get on X. Entangled. I lost 10,000. Evening all year. It's not on X at the minute. Yes, I can. I get to know, but got thrown out again now. I've just posted on X. It's working for me. I just reposted it. Okay, that's good. Thank you, Autistic, for that. It's fine on X. Evening miles of CMF. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? My account has been frozen all day on X. Is this the next big thing? Did you post something? I didn't see it yet. Yeah, I posted something on X right now, and I said. Hey buddy, how you doing? I posted something on X and I said join us on YouTube because X is having difficulties. Hope that works out for people. I don't know what's going on regarding X, but let's just see. Okay, so I think slowly start to work on X. Let's see. Didn't think today was going to go like this on the live, and there's so many things to discuss, and this is what's happening. Not great whatsoever, but let's see how things go. Okay. Do you know what's weird as well? With the whole situation that's going on with X regarding the difficulties we're having, there's a moron inside the comment section and it's called Big Mouth Rob. I just blocked him. With everything that's going on, the difficulties we're having right now to be able to connect to people on X so they can see the live as well, is an idiot inside the comment section as well. The timing of morons sometimes is impeccable. But I've just blocked him now so he can close his mouth. Now, welcome to the CMF Live if you're watching this for the first time ever. The CMF stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles, and I'm the host of this live you're watching right now. This is episode 277 of the CMF Live. And I think it's airing on X. I'm not really sure, but I know it's airing on YouTube for sure, guaranteed. If you're watching the first time ever, on this live, I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. Basically, vital information for you to know about regarding the world, completely transforming into a digital space. We also do essentially Q&As on this live as well, which means if you do have any questions, put it down in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. And a disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. So, welcome to the CMF Live if you're watching this for the first time ever. And if you're regular, let's go CMF. Now, a lot of things to discuss on tonight's live. A lot of things are happening around the world, which is a shame regarding the difficulties we're having to be able to connect to everyone online. Hello, Miles and CMF. Good to see you. Welcome to us. How you been? So someone asked me the rundown of tonight's live. So this is the rundown of what we're going to be talking about on tonight's live. We're going to be talking about the recession situations that's going on around the world. We're also going to be talking about on tonight's live regarding Trump, also regarding his accounts and what's happening around the world. There's a stock market, his own crypto portfolios. We're going to talk about a perspective coming out from Bitwise, which is also very similar to something I said on Friday. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live regarding the SEC crypto roundtable that's going to be happening very soon. And we're going to be talking about tonight's live regarding Coinbase derivatives market space going 24/7 in terms of trading inside the United States. That should add more capital to the table, but also create a lot more volatility. We're also going to be talking about the SEC taking action on anti-cryptocurrency rules. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live regarding the $21 billion to buy Bitcoin strategy and how it's performed, essentially preferred stocks. So MicroStrategy is really trying to, boost their image and purchase a lot more Bitcoin they can at these types of prices, but it's not good keeping all your eggs in one basket. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live regarding the EU in terms of their lawmakings regarding the European Central Bank and CBDCs. We're also going to go through news topics on tonight's live regarding the revolutionary essential moves that's happening with Deutsche Bank and their next movements inside the market space. We're going to be talking about the groundbreaking move coming out of Singapore on tonight's live as well. We're also going to be discussing matters of El Salvador and Paraguay coming together in terms of cryptocurrency regulations. We're also going to be talking about Ripple's CEO essentially praising Trump's administration for massive support. Now, before we go through any of these news topics, let's set a comment section first, and then we go straight into the news topic, straight into the first news topic we're discussing tonight's live. So let's see what's going on in the comment section first. Miles, when are the markets going to do 180 and we can see the green candles? When is the market going to do 180? As soon as the tariff situations are over pretty much and the regulations come in. It's this year without a doubt. But regarding the tariff situations, which is something we're going to go through on tonight's live, and regarding recession situations is what's coming up right now. Okay, so here it is. To answer your question and to give you a little bit, a rundown of what's going on. So recession risk are rising essentially for all three North American economies over Trump's US tariffs. US President Donald Trump's implementation of trade tariffs risk a recession inside the United States, Canada, and Mexico. According to a recent returner survey, businesses could struggle with a series of abrupt policy shifts that have created economic uncertainty. Since Friday, the Trump administration has reportedly essentially threatened to impose 25% taxes on goods imported from Canada and Mexico, only to suspend them in 2 instances, which has left investors in a state of essentially they don't know what to do next. Last Thursday, the second time in 6 weeks, the White House announced a temporary pause on tariffs for both North Korea, essentially for both North American essentially countries. Economists have surveyed by the retainer's poll have described Trump's essentially pause-play situation with trade tariffs as chaotic. Given this is an uncertain, essentially, that there are new announcements every hour or so, it's kind of unclear what the environment is going to look like, said Barclays Bank's essentially senior economist. He said it's hard to deny the risk of a recession has intensified. Wall Street has returned most of its gains seen during the November to January market uptrend. The consistent policy reversals have essentially also cast a doubt over the Bank of Canada's upcoming interest rate decisions on March 12th, with some experts saying it is now too difficult to predict if the rate cuts will take place. The uncertainty surrounding trade policies has already affected inflation, making it unlikely for the Federal Reserve will alter interest rates for the feasible, essentially, future. According to the retainer survey of the economists across essentially the United States, Canada, and Mexico, 70 out of the 74 respondents said tariff instability has essentially exponentially increased the probabilities of a recession in their respective countries. Some economists have made two predictive scenarios, one under the assumption that tariffs will be imposed on another essentially form, and that very few are uncertain which scenario is more likely. The International Essentially Monetary Fund, IMF, reported that if US tariffs are sustained, the economic impact on Canada and Mexico would be significant. Even if the tariffs are eventually rolled back, market watchers say the damage has already been done. It just doesn't look like a lot of this volatility will go away anytime soon, and this is obviously not healthy for the sentiment, said essentially Claire Fenn, the senior economist at essentially RBC in Toronto. Fan also essentially mentioned that a worse outlook on economic conditions could force the Bank of Canada to cut its essentially overnight rate by 25 basis points on March 12. Canada is now responding to Trump's trade tariffs with its own essentially counter tariffs, with the latest action coming essentially from the energy front. Ontario, essentially Canada's most populous essentially province, announced that it will impose a 25% surcharge on electricity essentially sold to the United States, effective on Monday, which is today. Ontario essentially Premier Doug Ford justified essentially the move as a direct response to Trump's trade policies. He said, "I will not hesitate to increase this charge," Ford said at a press conference in Toronto. "If the United States escalates, I will not hesitate to shut the electricity off completely." The Canadian province currently supplies power to some US states, including Minnesota, New York, and Michigan. Ford essentially told reporters that his decision was aimed at the American citizens, but rather at Trump's administration. "Believe me when I say I do not want to do this. I feel terrible for the American people who didn't start this trade war. It's one person who's responsible, and that's President Trump." The politician's office estimated that new surcharges could generate between 300,000 Canadian dollars, which is around $208,000, and 400,000 essentially Canadian dollars, which is around $277,000 per day. The revenue will reportedly be used to support Ontario's businesses and workers affected by the trade war. The 60-year-old essentially Ontario Premier's latest announcements adds to Canada's existing essentially tariffs, which include a $30 billion Canadian dollar essentially worth of duties on US products like orange juice, peanut butter, coffee, and appliances, footwear, cosmetics, motorcycles, and certain paper goods. Okay, the easiest way to put it is that Canada and Mexico are starting to feel the pressure regarding the trade wars. It's also putting pressure on Canada, essentially, and Mexico in terms of going into a recession. So remember what I said a long time ago regarding, not a long time ago, a while ago, I said it's a losing battle to go up against Trump in terms of tariffs. What's causing market volatility is a few factors. What's causing market volatile, what's making the market volatile is a few factors. One of the situations is that the market was expecting since Friday for the United States government to purchase $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, which is never going to happen in the first place. The second reason the market is volatile is due to this tariff situation that's starting for a while now. Now, as I said previously, tariffs are a good thing, it's not a bad thing. But what's happening right now is, in the simplest way to put it, is a game of chicken. Genuinely, it's a game of chicken to see who backs out first. Is it Trump that's going to back out from its whole tariff situation? Or is it going to be Canada? Or is it going to be Mexico? Or is it going to be China? But what I am trying to say is this tariff situation won't be able to carry on for too long, because Canada will go into a recession the longer it tries to battle the US in terms of tariffs. Mexico will also go into a recession the longer essentially it tries to battle out Trump in terms of tariffs. If the US goes into a recession, then the entire world goes into a recession, which wouldn't be beneficial for Mexico or Canada or China or any other country out there if the US goes into a recession, because every country will be failing on another level. So it's either they accept Trump's demands or everybody's done for, including them. This is why I said since day one, it's a losing battle to go up against Trump and to show this temporarily imaginary power China thinks it has over the US or Trump, or Mexico thinks it has over the US or Trump, or Canada thinks it has over the US or Trump. Because however way you look at it, Canada could increase its tariffs as much as it wants on Trump and show its imaginary power to the world, but then Canada will go into a recession. Mexico could raise its tariffs as much as it wants against the US, but then Mexico will go into a recession. China could do the same thing. They're standing on their last leg. They will definitely go into a recession. They could also get sanctioned, which will make it 10 times worse for them. Or if the US goes into a recession, then everybody goes into a recession, which wouldn't be beneficial for any economy. So it's a losing battle for these people. And they're playing a game of chicken. Canada thinks Trump's going to back down. Trump is never going to back down in any sort of instance. Mexico thinks Trump's going to back down as well. He isn't. China thinks Trump's going to back down. He isn't. They're basically playing, in the most simplest way to put it, a game of chicken with the market space to see if Trump's going to back down, or is Trump for real on taking it to the last step or right towards the edge, if it has to go right towards the edge, for America to take control back of the market space. Because America lost a lot of control of the market space, a lot of control inside the market space, especially during this whole EV craze, or the world needs to go electric. America lost a lot of power because the reason why the world was forced into this whole EV stage and, let's use electric batteries to power the world is because who's the number one energy source for electric batteries? China. Which means right now, essentially, in terms of energy, America's relying on essentially oil, which they can drill inside of America, or on Middle Eastern countries in terms of oil as well. But if the world starts relying on energy coming from electricity, then the world is going to start relying on China for its energy crisis situations, which then will essentially put China in the number one place for energy to be provided to the world. That's the whole reason, essentially, the world was so forcibly being pushed towards essentially EVs and energies and batteries and so on. It's because China was going to take the rankings for number one energy essentially purposes. So right now, genuinely, they're playing a game of chicken. All these countries going up against Trump, they're playing a game of chicken. It's either their country goes into a recession or the US goes into a recession and everybody goes into a recession. So genuinely, Canada, Mexico, and China are playing a game of chicken with Donald Trump. And they want to see if Trump is really that guy to take it to the last level for everybody to go into a recession, just for him to get control back. Knowing Trump, he will take it to that last step just for him to get control back for the US. The longer this carries on, the higher the chance of Canada going into a recession, the higher the chance of Mexico going into a recession, the higher the chance of China going into a recession, the longer they carry on this battle. And the last step will be the US goes into a recession, which means everybody will go into a recession, which is not beneficial for anyone. But they're playing a game of chicken to see if Trump is really going to take it there. In my point of view, Trump should take it there. Because otherwise, guess who's going to come into control for energy purposes? So that's what's going on inside the market space. There's a battle of chicken going on. Who's going to become who? Who's going to back out first? I know for a fact Trump is not going to back down. And if Canada thinks Trump's going to back down, or China thinks Trump's going to back down, or Mexico thinks Trump's going to back down, they're stupid to even acknowledge that. Because Trump is never going to back down. And he shouldn't. And we're not going to go into a recession. Although we might be on the verge of a recession, which we've been on the verge of a recession since Biden's essentially presidency. But we're not going to go into a recession. Nobody's dumb enough to go into a recession. Unless recession is the move for them to introduce a digital world. Unless recession is a move for them to essentially go into a digital world, which is an outcome we considered back in 2024. In 2024, we considered essentially one of the outcomes being, going into a CBDC world would be either, cut the electricity, or it would be essentially a black swan event, or it would be a recession, was one of the outcomes we considered back in 2024 for the world to be, switched over. But also, on top of the recession situation, on top of the recession threats, and on top of the tariff threats, and on top of essentially, America, everybody was expecting Trump to buy $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, which was never going to be a reality in any sort of a way. And the White House Crypto Summit was only about, regulations and policies. That's all it was about. But on top of all of that, we have the other thing that I talked about on Friday, if anybody remembers, which was right now, what needs to happen is the market, in terms of traditional banking systems, need to transfer over the power they have on the market space. So traditional banks need to transfer over the power they have over the market space and their capital to essentially tech companies is what needs to happen as well. So the market space right now, traditional banks also need to transfer their power and their essentially capital and so on slowly into the tech space, because tech companies are going to become the new bank, basically. It's not going to be, the traditional banks we have. Tech companies will slowly become the new bank, or the foundation of the traditional banking system, either way it goes. So there's also that happening. And some traditional banking systems still might not want to let go of the power and control they have over the market space, because the traditional banking system gives up their power. They're giving up their power and the strength, essentially the control they have over the market space, the tech companies, which is something that was essentially we talked about on Friday, which when they were talking about JP Morgan, essentially they were talking about Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, Barclays, for example, where they're all getting ready to, start joining Silicon Valley, because that's where the capital is going to start going, for example. So on top of all the tariff situations, the game of chicken they're playing right now, and essentially the recession situations, we also have, some bankers might not like the idea of that transfer happening. But all of that situation is because we don't have regulations. Because we don't have regulations, it makes it extremely easy to manipulate the market space. And just like always, Bitcoin is doing an incredibly terrible job at preventing itself from dropping. Honestly, it's never been able to essentially remain some sort of a hedge against anything, for crying out loud. If a war happens, Bitcoin is volatile. If tariffs happen, Bitcoin is volatile. If any economic situations happen, Bitcoin is volatile. When is exactly Bitcoin going to act like a store of value or an inflation hedge? We will never know. But those categories have been given to Bitcoin a very long time ago. And I've always said it doesn't deserve it. Because when are we exactly going to see this inflation hedge of Bitcoin kick in? Because it's never kicked in. But yet we still give it that category anyways. But anyways, other things on top of that is also that everything is still connected to Bitcoin's footsteps due to having no regulations. And because we haven't decoupled and we don't have regulations, which means we don't have utility, we're feeling the burn even more. But nevertheless, a lot of things are changing in the background. So a lot of things are changing in the background in terms of regulations and policies coming from Congress and senators and, the new SEC and CFTC. And essentially the crypto executives Trump has signed. So a lot of things are actually in progress. And the OCC, essentially, we talked about as well, how the OCC is now telling banks they can start working with crypto companies. The SEC, we're going to talk about today as well, in terms of changing their policies and regulations, stuff that Gary Gensler did to stifle the market space. So a lot of things are happening, and all those things are adding on top of the market fears and uncertainties in situations like that. Now, what you shouldn't be doing is panicking in any sort of a way at all. What's happening now, it needs to happen for us to be able to move forward. Mainly regarding the whole tariff situation, it's just one big game of chicken. They see who's going to come out on top. And I can guarantee it, it's not going to be Mexico or Canada or China that wins this tariff war in any sort of way. Even though CNBC, ABC, MSN News, and all these liberal, essentially, news channels, they're all chiming and going against Donald Trump, their own US president, and saying China's going to win the tariff war, Mexico's going to win the tariff war, Canada's going to win the tariff war. Those people have zero clue what they're talking about, and they're underestimating Trump's authority and power and the US's power. So morons will obviously agree to that one, but in reality, Canada's going to lose this tariff battle. So is China, so is Mexico, so is anybody else. Because if they carry it on, their countries are going to go into a recession. If they continue even further, America's going to go into a recession, which means everybody goes into a recession, which means nobody wins. And everybody takes a massive, massive loss, which is the last thing I think China wants, or Canada wants, or Mexico wants. So it's either they give up their temporary power they think they have and just, accept the demands from Trump, or everybody goes into a recession, which I don't think they're dumb enough to do that maneuver. It all goes back to what the International Monetary Fund has said a while ago, which is if the American markets sneeze, then essentially all the markets around the world catch a cold. So let's see who's going to win the game of chicken. In my point of view, it's guaranteed to be Trump in every way possible. Now, let's consider a conversation before we talk about anything else on tonight's live. And also, if you're thinking to yourself, well, this is damaging the little guy inside the market space. This is damaging essentially, the retail section. Trump isn't really taking any sort of damage of what's going on. He is. Trump's stock portfolio is also down just like yours, but he's still willing to stand up and fight for what's right for America to take control back. Trump is also suffering in terms of their crypto portfolios as well. For example, Trump also suffered essentially from the big decline that's happening inside the market space. So the World Liberty Financial Project, which Trump family is a part of, the cryptocurrency project backed by US President Donald Trump, has been much talked about recently with its altcoin purchases. However, due to the decline inside the market space, the portfolio of this project was also greatly damaged. According to the data that's just come out, the current loss of the portfolio of Trump's family crypto project is down essentially about $110 million. The total value of the largest altcoin inside the portfolio purchase for $336 million currently corresponds to $226 million. However, when the details of the portfolio are examined, it is observed that most of the assets are in Ethereum and the most loss is in the cryptocurrencies. The company purchased its ETH essentially for an average of $3,240, and at the time of writing, ETH is priced essentially trading around $2,000. The company also has a large amount of WBTC, which is wrapped BTC, Move, TRX in its portfolio, and the company has funded a significant portion of its investments through private sales of its own token, World Liberty Financial. So if you think this situation that's going on isn't really impacting Trump, it's also impacting Trump's family crypto portfolio project and his own stocks. But Trump is still willing there, essentially standing there, willingly trying to take control back. And it's genuinely a game of chicken on to see who's going to win. And it isn't going to be Canada, Mexico, or China, because if they're going to win, then everybody loses, including them, because America will go into a recession, which means everybody will go into a recession. Which I don't think they're stupid enough to do that, unless that is the move for a digital world. Then that's a different scenario. Miles, so this is like a very slow, painful experience. Pretty much, yes. So I hope that helps Funky Bonnet. Anybody else that was, confused about what's going on, what's really going on, that's the most simplest way to put it. It's a game of chicken to see who's going to come out on top. Hey, what's up, brother? How are you? Billo, good to see you. How you doing, brother? How you been? Why is the market down? That's why the market's down. Death by CMF, let's go. Hi, Miles and family. Alex, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hello, Miles. What has happened to crypto? It's a bear market. That's what's happened, essentially, Johnny Bravo. Morning, Miles and CMF. Shelly, good to see you all morning. How you doing? How you been? I certainly hope that the markets continue to tank because I want to still have more time to accumulate more Shiba, Lunacy, Ondo, XRP, XLM, XDC, HBAR, and Algorand for a discount before the parabolic run. Perfect way to look at it. Genuinely perfect way to look at it. Even Miles and CMF, Pierce, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? I said, Miles, Black Swan event, your opinion soon. It was an outcome we considered back in 2024. It could still happen, but it's an outcome. One of the outcomes we considered. The outcomes that we considered back in 2024 was if they cut the internet, which is the wires that's running essentially from one particular ocean. And the other outcome we considered was a Black Swan event for going into a digital world. The other outcome was essentially recession situations, the collapse of the market space, going into a digital world. If that's the scenario. Miles, you have always said we are watching a coordinated government movie, so what's next? That's what's next. It's a game of chicken, that's what's going on. Wouldn't this be a perfect situation for a reset? It would, yes, definitely. Will we see some regulations come through gradually? Great question, Shelley. Will we see some regulations coming in gradually? Yes, we should see some regulations coming in gradually, to be fairly honest, because senators essentially are pushing for crypto regulations. The SEC is pushing for crypto regulations. CFTC is pushing for crypto regulations. Congressmen are pushing for regulations as well. And then the White House is also pushing for regulations. So all of these components together, they should be able to squeeze out regulations a lot more sooner than they could have before, essentially. So we should be expecting regulations, or will it take to August and etc.? We'll have to see, but this year we should be getting a lot of regulations coming in. Mainly being the essentially stablecoin regulation first, so the Genius Act or the Stablecoin Act, which way ever it goes, and a few of the regulations in place so that banks can, start using crypto assets and no longer fear about the whole gray area situation. So this year in general, BTC is complex computer algorithms generated systems, and therefore it has no board of directors and it's a very slow system to operate. I agree with you 100% regarding the BTC situation. You're right about Trump. He will not back down. He wants to put America first. Yes, facts, JP. I read they are down $110 million. Yep. It's true, Shelly. Trump's family's crypto portfolio is down $110 million US right now. And they're feeling the burn, the same as the rest of the market space is feeling the burn as well. XRP, XLM, XDC are ideal for real-world assets, which serves as a financial and currency. Yes, that's true. Greetings, Miles and CMF. Can't access the show on X. The app's acting funny today. Let's go. Let's go, Ray. How you doing? Hi, Miles and CMF. Sorry, being MIA. Went to Tennessee to drop off my grandbabies to their parents after 3.5 fun weeks with them. Let's go, Stormy. How you doing? How you been? Do you think XRP will rise up again these weeks? These weeks, if the case gets dropped, yes. Now, something I also said on Friday. On Friday, I said, essentially, everybody was expecting Trump to come out and regarding the White House summit to say he's going to buy 1 billion XRP, 1 billion Bitcoin, and so on and so on. And I said that was never going to be the case. I said that it's just going to be about regulations and policies. In fact, 3-4 times on different live shows, I said it's only going to be about policies and regulations and the whole debanking situation, never about him purchasing any crypto. So it turns out I wasn't the only one. And that said, essentially, what happened inside the White House was actually a positive, what happened inside the White House. Those are things that we always wanted to hear, and we finally got to essentially get our voices heard coming out of the White House, regarding debanking crypto. We don't want that to happen again, ever again. In terms of, crypto being sued by the SEC for no apparent reason and so on. These are things that we always love to have inside the crypto space, and they were mentioned inside the White House by the US president, which was a major announcement, but the market made it look like it was nothing. And in reality, it was everything that we needed inside the market space for these things to be said and for these things to go into law. Turns out I wasn't the only one that was thinking like this. So Bitwise today, Bitwise's officials says the market is absolutely wrong about the decline and shares his bullish scenario. Bitwise officials have came out and said that the market is wrong and that we should be bullish moving forward. Bitcoin fell sharply today, down to 6.5% as the market volatility continues following President Donald Trump's executive order establishing that Bitcoin reserve alongside the crypto stockpile. Earlier in the day, the world's largest cryptocurrency was down as much as 4.5% to trade around $78,650. The decline essentially follows investors' reactions to the reserve announcements, which stated that the US government would fund the reserves using BTC seized essentially in criminal and civil essentially cases. Notably, the government has no plans to directly purchase additional Bitcoins, which is what Michael Saylor wanted, and a lot of people wanted as well, which I said was never going to happen. I said it was only about regulations and policies. But following the announcements last Thursday, the crypto markets reacted negatively, with some investors disappointed by the lack of more aggressive saving strategies, but some analysts remain optimistic about the long-term impacts of the reserve. This is what essentially Matt Huggins said, the Chief Investment Officer at Bitwise Asset Management. So this is what he said. He said, I think the market is absolutely wrong on this one. Matt Huggins, Chief Investment Officer at Bitwise Asset Management, said during an interview on CNBC Squawkbox Asia, the market is experiencing a short-term disappointment and that the government did not immediately buy a significant amount of Bitcoin, say $100,000 or $200,000, which is exactly what I said, as in the market thought essentially, in the White House, they're going to mention Trump purchasing with ridiculous amounts of Bitcoin or any sort of cryptocurrencies, which was never going to be the case, which is also what essentially the chief investment officer at Bitwise is saying right now. Matt Huggan pointed to the statements by the White House crypto, essentially House Crypto and AI chief David Sachs on X, who stated that the US government would explore budget-neutral strategies to acquire additional Bitcoin or additional crypto assets without touching American taxpayers' money. He said, I think the right question to ask is, has this executive order increased the likelihood of BTC becoming a geopolitically significant currency or an asset in the future? Will other governments follow the footsteps of the US to seek and build their own street reserves? I think the answer is definitely yes, he said. Same thing I said about 2024? I said, whenever we essentially, all these countries create some sort of a reserve, and I said the same thing in 2025 as well. I said, if America creates a crypto reserve, the rest of the world will follow in America's footsteps on creating a crypto reserve. So even if America doesn't want to buy using taxpayers' money regarding crypto assets, they still announce their crypto portfolio to the entire world, which means the rest of the world is going to create the exact same portfolio, and they might start using their taxpayers' money. Emphasizing that this development could be important, very important, in determining the long-term essentially valuation of Bitcoin, Matt Huggan suggested that such moves could increase the BTC price from $80,000 to $1 million per coin. He hasn't given it the timeline in any sort of a way, but is what essentially he's saying. Despite the short-term price drops, Matt Huggan remains confident in Bitcoin's long-term prospects. And he says, I think the market will soon find its feet and realize that it's actually incredibly bullish for the asset and crypto as a whole for the long term. Matt Huggan essentially coming out and saying what's happening inside the market space is very, very short term. Also, he's also saying that this shouldn't be happening inside the market space. He said, we just signed 2 executive orders for cryptocurrencies in the biggest market space in the world, and the market is reacting negatively to the news, which is ridiculous. Which also goes back to what I said as well regarding, well, when someone asked me the question on Friday's live that we did, someone asked me a question of, Miles, why does the market essentially suddenly go red everywhere inside the crypto space at the exact same time? And why does the market suddenly go green throughout the entire market space, the crypto market space, at the exact same time? Why does the market just go red suddenly all across the board or green suddenly across the board? I said because the same investors are pretty much in the same investors. Hedge funds, essentially, a lot of them invest inside the market space, whales and so on. And the list of, the big heads are quite massive, and they control the entire market space. That is why you see the entire market space suddenly go green coordinately, red coordinately. And I said, if they have the capabilities to do this, and because being inside a market space is not just about contract news or regulation news or any other news that's out there as well. I also said that it's also about psychological warfare as well, which means that the control they have inside a market space, due to not having regulations in place, just to point that out, because we don't have regulations, it's easy to essentially manipulate the market space, that they can make good news look like bad news. For example, so White House Crypto Summit, they discuss about debanking situations and all this positivity about cryptocurrencies, and then the market reacts by going bearish, like this. All the crypto assets go suddenly red, which makes the White House Crypto Summit, which was incredibly positive for the crypto space, look like nothing and bad news, because the people that control the market space can make good news look like bad news look like good news by playing with the numbers. Good news can come out inside the market space, but the ones that are controlling the majority of the market space will make the entire market space go red across the board, which will make you or majority of people assume that it's bad news, because you're looking at figures going down while this news is released. And the news could be excellent news, but the market is reacting the opposite. And you might think to yourself, well, this could be bad news then. And in reality, it isn't. It's just the people that control the market space have the capability to change your perception, even on good news when it comes out. And they can make bad news look like good news as well. Bad news could come out and they could go green across the entire board of the market space. And you would think, well, it must be good news then. And in reality, it isn't. It's just they're playing with the numbers, which means they're playing with you psychologically. Being inside the market space, crypto or stock market, it's not just about contract news and partnerships and licensings and so on that create the volatility inside the market space, or tariffs and so on. It's also about psychological warfare, which they use on people a lot. Just by changing the figures on the board, they can make good news look like bad news look like good news, and you will never be able to tell the difference in some cases. Genuinely. So that is what essentially Matt Huggan is talking about, the chief investment officer at Bitwise, He's trying to say what's happened inside the White House was bullish, extremely bullish. And Bitwise is the same asset management firm that has multiple ETFs going on in essentially millions and billions of dollars. And he's coming out as a chief investment officer of Bitwise and saying, hang on a minute, the White House Crypto Summit was extremely bullish. And what's happening inside the market space is wrong. Why is it reacting like this? It's because the majority of investors inside the market space have so much control inside the crypto space that they can make any crypto across the entire board go red all of a sudden. Green all of a sudden. It's like almost someone's pressing a button, the market goes green. Someone press the button, the market goes red. That's how much of control they have inside the market space, where they can make good news look like bad news. White House Crypto Summit was very, very good news. But they made the market reverse, which made you think it must be bad news. Also, one thing you should know about, the White House Crypto Summit is an indication of how close we are to regulations, which means the manipulation that's going on inside the market space can only continue so far. The White House Crypto Summit, the big picture that most people miss in the White House Crypto Summit was, the biggest picture was that the White House Crypto Summit was an indication of how close we are getting to regulations. And regulations are a threat to hedge funds, institutions, and so on that manipulate the market space in which direction they wanted to go regarding the crypto market space. So they're just milking it right now. The majority of investors who are extremely essentially whale investors or hedge fund investors and so on are manipulating the market space the hell out of it. They're milking the market space right now because even they know how close we are to regulations, and they won't be able to do this once we go to regulations, because something powerful that crypto assets have is utility. Utility is like, the simplest way to put it, kryptonite. Utility is like kryptonite to essentially market manipulation. Not saying it can't be manipulated, it can. Any asset can be manipulated. But it's like kryptonite because they can't manipulate the hell out of it. Once regulations come in and cryptocurrencies go towards utility, the ones that have utility, it's going to get very difficult for these hedge funds and whales and so on to manipulate the market space. So regulations are like kryptonite. Sorry, utility are like kryptonite for essentially these hedge funds and these whales to be able to manipulate the markets. And they know the moment we go into regulations, they know how difficult it's going to get for them to be able to manipulate certain assets because they've decoupled from Bitcoin. So they're no longer manipulating Bitcoin to manipulate the rest of the market space and so on. So they know. But the White House Crypto Summit was an indication of how close we are to regulations. And because they messed with the numbers and the psychological warfare kicked in, most people didn't even notice that that was what's happening, of how close we are to regulations right now. So that's what's happening. There's a lot of situations happening, to be fairly honest. But the White House Crypto Summit was extremely bullish. And that's why Bitwise's CEO, Bitwise is essentially chief investment officer, coming out and essentially saying, it makes no sense. It was extremely bullish, the White House Crypto Summit, but the market reacted the opposite. He's a chief investment officer at Bitwise, and even he is confused on the level of psychological warfare that's going on inside the market space. And this is something I said on Friday. This man is coming out and saying this on live news on CNBC today. It's crazy. The way they can mess with people's brains, it's ridiculous. But regulations, utility like kryptonite, honestly, because that's what makes it different regarding crypto assets and stocks. Stocks are still, easily manipulated because they don't have utility, but crypto does. And there's so many other factors in play as well, but that one, it just shows you the level of manipulation, the hold they have inside the market space. Excellent. Before we go through the next news, let's go to the comment section first. As I previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, put it outside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. Will the case drop, you think? Do you think do you think XRP will rise up again these weeks? Depends on essentially the case can drop. When will the case drop, you think? First quarter, second quarter is always what I've said, and I'm still sticking to that. I said that since the beginning of January and the end of 2024. At the end of 2024 and the beginning of January, I said the case should, in my opinion, come to an end first quarter to second quarter, and I'll still stand by that. First quarter, second quarter, the case should go away. There's no way in hell it's going to continue after the second quarter, and it shouldn't continue after the second quarter. Hello, Miles. How are you, brother? Good to see you all. Same. How you been? I brought more XRP, XLM, XDC, HBAR, and Algo today. Let's go, Stormy. Outstanding. Talking about the psychological warfare, bro. It's real facts. Let's go, Ray. Maybe Trump should have waited to announce the tariffs straight after the White House summit. It doesn't matter, because if you think about it, Funky Brother, great question, by the way, or good point, but you've also got to consider the other factor. So the reason why I say it wouldn't matter as much is because even if we waited 2 days and then introduced the tariffs, it would still impact the market space. So him introducing a day after or 2 days after or 2 weeks after, it still wouldn't make a difference because it will still impact the market space. So it's better for him to get it over and done with right at the beginning of his presidency, so he can continue his presidency by making America better, which makes the world a better place in terms of the market space. So it wouldn't really matter if Trump did the tariff news and he announced it 2 weeks after the crypto announcement. It still wouldn't make a difference because the market will still crash then. So it's better to do all the crashing the market needs to do now, and the game of chicken to be played now, than in the middle of the market space or later on. It's just better to get it out of the way. Majority of the exchanges work hand in hand with the whales. That's how they liquidate long and short positions. Facts. They are all corrupt. Facts. I believe you want. I'm with you 100% there. 100% Funky Brother. What will happen to price when the case finally ends? What will happen to the price of XRP when the XRP case finally ends? It will bump up in price, no doubt about it. But the biggest bump up in price for XRP is going to be when regulations are put in place for essentially XRP to be utilized in terms of international, essentially being used as a medium of payments for international transfers. That's essentially what's going to be the biggest price change for XRP. Now, the case ending is going to give it a bump in price. It's going to show positivity towards the market space and so on. But if any bad news comes out, then the market will react in a negative way, and so would XRP. The only way forward is regulations. That is the only way forward is regulations. That means, isn't good for hedge funds to have rules and regulations? Pretty much, yes. The only way forward is regulations. XRP closing the case, that's excellent news. And XRP will react in a positive way. But then if negative news hits the market, then XRP will go negative as well, just like the rest of the market space, because we don't have regulations. The only way forward to get out of this volatile stage we're in, controlled by Bitcoin and the rest of the market space, is essentially for regulations to come through. That's the only way forward. What is realistic? Can we see €5 after case? What is realistic in your opinion? 3 to 5 is possible, but the regulations need to go away. Any news on SPF using essentially XRP? Sam Beckman-Fried? SBI? Shelly, are you referring to SBI? Or Sam Beckman-Fried, because SBF is Sam Beckman-Fried. I think you're referring to SBI. I think so. If you're referring to SBI, when is XRP going to be used by SBI Japan? It's going to be, well, in their own words, it's going to be utilized in 2025. They haven't given it essentially a month of what month they're going to be using it. But if I had to guess, it's going to be a month after essentially the case has been dropped. It has to be within that sort of time frame. Brother, when will come the consider variable change hoodies? Consider variable change hoodies, we'll see. 3 to 2 for next 3 months is amazing. Well, that's if the market reacts in a positive way and we don't get any bad news. Otherwise, we're going back down. Regulations is the only thing that's going to keep this market space up. Any bad news will, even if XRP's case closes and bad news hits the market space tomorrow, straight after, the market's going down again. So it's regulations that's going to save this market space, to be fairly honest. Faceplant low. Let's go, Shelly. Now, SEC Roundtable is also what's happening as well. So, critical SEC crypto roundtable. A16Z and a few essentially venture companies, advisors to tackle cryptocurrency securities debate. So, there's a lot of things happening in this month, and one of them essentially being the SEC Roundtable. So we've had the crypto essentially White House Summit. Now we're going to have the SEC Crypto Roundtable coming up, and this is what's going to be happening. The cryptocurrency world is embracing for potentially defining moment as the Securities and Exchange SEC gears up to host a crucial crypto task force roundtable on March 21st. If anybody wants to put it in there, essentially, calendars, March 21st is the crypto task force roundtable that's happening for the SEC. This isn't just another meeting. It's a pivotal discussion that could reshape the regulatory landscape for digital assets, which is what we need, regulations. Adding significant weight to this event, advisors from industry giants, Howard's, for example, Anderson Howard's, A16Z Crypto, in other words, and essentially Delphi Ventures are confirmed to participate in this, signaling the high stakes and industry-wide implications for this debate. The SEC Crypto Roundtable is set to be a landmark event, bringing together key stakeholders to address a fundamental question that has loomed essentially over the cryptocurrency industry since inception. Do cryptocurrencies qualify as securities is going to be the #1 question in this roundtable. This isn't merely essentially an academic exercise. The answer essentially to this question will dictate how digital assets are regulated and traded, and essentially integrated into a broader financial system. Scheduled for March 21st at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, the roundtable promises to be a deep dive into the complexities of essentially cryptocurrency securities and their legal frameworks that govern them. Here's why this roundtable is generating so much anticipation. Clarification on regulatory status. For years, the lack of clear regulatory guidelines that has essentially been a major hurdle for the crypto industry. This roundtable could provide much needed clarity on whether and when cryptocurrencies are considered securities under existing laws. Other things that's also going to be discussed on tonight's live as well is, other things that's going to be discussed at the SEC Crypto Roundtable is industry input. The participants of advisors from A16Z and essentially the other ventures ensures that the SEC will hear directly from leading voices within the crypto space. Their insights are crucial for essentially crafting regulations that are both effective and essentially in terms of innovation. Market impact. The outcome of these discussions could have significant impact on the crypto market space, influencing investor sentiments and project developments and the overall trajectory of the industry. Public scrutiny. The event is publicly essentially highlighting the SEC's commitment to transparency and allowing the broader community to follow these essentially critical discussions on crypto regulations. While the SEC essentially crypto roundtable on March 21st is a significant step, it's just the beginning of the ongoing process. Don't expect immediate regulatory changes overnight, though. However, the discussion and insights generated from this event are likely to inform the SEC's future policy decisions and enforcement actions regarding cryptocurrency and securities. SEC guidance. The roundtable could lead to the SEC issuing further guidance or clarification on its stance on cryptocurrency securities. This could take the form of essentially staff bulletins in terms of releases or even proposed rulemakings, enforcement actions. While clarity is hoped for, the SEC may also use insights essentially gained to redefine its enforcement strategies against projects deemed to be in violation of securities laws. Industry dialogue. The roundtable sets a precedent for continued dialogue between the regulators and the crypto industry. Expect further engagements and consultations as the regulatory framework completely evolves. The upcoming SEC Crypto Roundtable is more than just a meeting. It's a critical juncture for the cryptocurrency industry. With advisors from A16Z and Crypto Ventures and leading essentially their expertise, the discussions promise essentially to be impactful and insightful. And the questions whether cryptocurrencies or securities is fundamental, and the clarity sought from this event could very well define the trajectory of crypto regulations and the future of digital assets. Keep a close watch essentially on March 21st. It could be a day that shapes the crypto world for years to come. Facts. Regarding what's going to be happening on March 21st, it's going to be very, very positive in terms of the SEC Crypto Roundtable and actually hearing voices from the blockchain space at the roundtable, which is incredible, is what we need essentially. Now, there's a lot of other things happening in terms of date-wise in March as well. We also have the CFTC Crypto Roundtable as well. We have the CFTC Crypto Roundtable on March before the SEC event. So, Miles, was the 10th of March an important date as well? What happened today in crypto markets? Not so much, but we have another roundtable coming up, which is CFTC roundtable. We have a CFTC roundtable. We have an SEC roundtable still to look forward to, and a few other events that's happening for the blockchain space as well, in terms of senators having a sit down, in terms of regulations and policies. Yes, today was also something very important as well, which we're going to talk about later on tonight's live as well. Yes, it was. Funky brother, thanks so much for reminding me about that. But yeah, today was also a very important day, which we're going to talk about tonight's live a little bit later on. Now, what we're going to talk about next is essentially Coinbase. But before we talk about that, let's move to the comment section first. As I said previously, if you have any questions, put it down to the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. And yeah, once again, regarding the SEC having a crypto roundtable is incredible. It's just another indication of how close we are to regulations, genuinely. But regulations will come when? Well, this year it has to be. Miles, 10th, yes. Peg, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Harris says, Miles, do you think they will wait until the retail no believe in the projects anymore and then explode the prices? It's a possibility to, essentially, it's a possibility to consider due to the logical warfare, the essentially the situation of warfare that's going on. Yes. I don't sell my XRP through this money. Yeah, no, neither would I. Not in a million years at all. Now, Coinbase. Coinbase Derivatives plans to kickstart 24/7 futures trading. This could add capital towards the market space, but also create a bit more volatility stage inside the market space as well. So here it is. Coinbase Derivatives is planning to make a major move inside the crypto exchanges, inside the crypto market space. Earlier today, the crypto exchange announced its plans to launch a 24/7, essentially futures trading for Bitcoin and Ethereum inside the United States. Before now, US traders can only trade futures during fixed hours, forcing them to miss out on market opportunities at other times. Coinbase's new plan will allow traders to trade anytime, giving them more control over their investments. Futures trading is a massive part of essentially global crypto community. Accounting for the most of their trading volume. Many traders inside the US have been looking for regulated crypto futures that operate around the clock, just like the crypto market itself. Coinbase is stepping into to meet its demands, ensuring traders do not have to wait for markets to open. The trading platform is also working on launching essentially a futures trading style. Unlike traditional futures, the perpetual futures do not have an expiry date, allowing traders to hold their options for as long as they want. These types of futures trades are already popular in global crypto markets, and Coinbase wants to bring a regulated version to the US. The CME Group, the biggest derivatives exchange inside the US, has offered crypto futures for a while, but only during regular trading hours. Coinbase's new offering will break the barrier, making futures trading available anytime, all night in the US. The company has partnered with Nodal Clear to regulate the future entirely, and this initiative essentially came after the leading crypto exchange launched the derivatives products in Canada last February. Coinbase plans to offer futures contracts in different sizes, catering to institutional investors and retail traders. Smaller investors can participate in the market by including nano-sized contracts without needing large amounts of capital. This move could attract more people to regarding crypto's futures trading, making the market more exclusive. With this launch, Coinbase essentially derivatives gives the US traders more freedom and flexibility. And now they can react to market changes in real time and take advantage of opportunities whenever they essentially come about. This is a big step towards making crypto trading more open, accessible. This will add a lot of capital slowly towards the market space regarding Coinbase offering 24/7 derivatives tradings inside the market space, a regulated market space inside the US, which could bring on essentially high-profile clients to start using Coinbase for derivatives market spaces. Should add capital towards the market space, not overnight, over time, but also could make the market space more volatile because it gives more of an option to very, very wealthy individuals to start investing inside a market space by doing futures trading in a regulated market space, which could make the market space more volatile, but also add a lot more capital. Just goes back to what I said a very, very long time ago. More institutions equals more money, but also more manipulation. Now, SEC. So this is what happened today. So Funky Brother, Miles, was the 10th of March an important date as well? What happened today in crypto? Yes, it was. So this is why today was important as well. So the SEC takes action on anti-cryptocurrency rules from Gary Gensler's era today. They're changing it. There's a lot of laws that need to be changed that Gary Gensler tried to stifle the crypto space inside of the United States. And one of them was this, which was essentially getting removed today. The US Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, is reconsidering a regulatory proposal that aims to expand its oversight of cryptocurrency trading platforms. Acting Chairman Mark announced his intentions to scale back the initiative, which requires certain digital asset businesses to register with the agency. The proposal, essentially, which has been in development for years, awaiting essentially finalization, sought to expand the definition of trading venues under the SEC's jurisdiction. But Mark has instructed the SEC staff to halt progress on that and essentially expect of the rulemakings. It was a mistake, in my view, for the Commission to conflate regulation of treasury markets with a heavy-handed attempt to suppress the crypto market space. Mark said in a speech prepared for the International Bankers Institution in Washington. He cited the overwhelming, essentially public opposition to the SEC proposed expansions of the definition of the exchange as a key reason for reconsideration. The rule would redefine essentially certain communications and proposals as exchanges, a move that Mark argued was poorly essentially specified and could essentially catch a variety of crypto-related technologies. The proposal would cover a variety of protocols used essentially in relation to crypto assets, he said, and the initial proposal was one of the several regulatory efforts spearheaded by former essentially SEC Chairman Gary Gensler, whose approach to cryptocurrency regulation has been a subject of criticism. The shift in policy direction comes as the SEC undergoes leadership in changes following recent appointments by President Donald Trump. So the SEC did do something quite good today, which was pulling back. Essentially, it hasn't been passed yet, but he's told his staff members to halt this essentially one particular law that Gary Gensler was trying to impose on the SEC, on the crypto space, was trying to expand one particular law to include crypto companies into it so that the SEC could hinder the growth of essentially cryptocurrencies inside the United States even more and have a lot more control over them, which is something that Mark, the acting chairman, has decided today, we see it on the 10th, to pull back completely, to remove Gary Gensler's stupid law completely and remove it out. So that was what happened today. As you can see, a lot of positivity is happening in terms of the regulation aspect of the cryptocurrency space. Now, MicroStrategy. So that's what essentially happened today, Funky Brother, which was the SEC having discussions of stupid laws to remove that Gary Gensler imposed on the cryptocurrency market space. Now, MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, is not doing so well, but he's decided to purchase more Bitcoin for his company to raise more money as well also. So here it is. $21 billion to buy Bitcoin. Strategy announces a preferred stock offering to fund additional BTC purchases today. Michael Saylor led business intelligence firm Strategy announced today that it has entered into a sales agreement to offer up to $21 billion of 8 Series A Petrol Strikes preferred stocks. According to the filing with the US and essentially with the US SEC, the shares which carry a essentially below 1 cent per value are convertible essentially into Strategy's Class A common stocks and will be sold under essentially at the market ATM essentially offering program. Its official press release, the company stated that the proceeds from the offerings will be used essentially for general and corporate purposes. This includes the acquisition of additional Bitcoin and working capital. Sales essentially of the strikes preferred to stock will be conducted over time, and Strategy indicated that shares will be issued in a disciplined essentially manner. According essentially to the filings, the preferred stock may be sold through various methods deemed compliant with Rule 415A and essentially 4 of the Securities Act of 1933, as amended. This includes at the market offerings, negotiated transactions, and block trades. The offerings will be made in essentially pursuit to have a supplement filed on March 10th, which already happened essentially today, and registration statements which became essentially effective on January 27th this year. Strategy is already the largest corporate holder of Bitcoin, and the proceeds from this offering are expected to fund further accumulation of the leading cryptocurrency. The company has previously indicated that Bitcoin's acquisition remains a core component of its long-term corporate strategy. The firm recently dropped Micro from its essential name as a part of the rebranding process to highlight its focus more on Bitcoin, and this came essentially amidst the groundbreaking fourth quarter of 2024, which has marked the largest increase in Bitcoin's alternative pricing. Now, despite the announcements that's coming out of MicroStrategy, MSTR stock is trading near $252, down by over 12% from previous closes. So, finding out that Trump is not going to be purchasing any Bitcoin, which was always going to be the plan, Trump was never going to use taxpayer money to fund Bitcoin. It was just never going to happen. Because if Trump did that, then the people who are against Trump will try to badmouth him even more and brainwash people even more against Trump and say, Trump is using your tax-paying money to buy imaginary money. I can already picture the headlines if that ever happened. So that is one reason why Trump decided not to use tax-paying money, because I can guarantee you it, if Trump came out and said he's going to be using taxpayer money to buy Bitcoin for the Bitcoin reserve, the next day, forget about the next day, the next 5 minutes, the news is just going to bombard Trump with Trump was going to buy imaginary money using taxpayers' money and so on. And that's just exactly what was going to be happening. So that's one of the reasons why Trump decided not to use taxpayer money, especially on speculative assets like Bitcoin, for example. But there are many other reasons why he didn't do that. But MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, has decided to essentially take matters into his own hand and raise more money and buy Bitcoin no matter what. I said this a long time ago, and I'll stand by it. MicroStrategy is going to get to a stage where they either have to Chapter 11 or Chapter 15, as previously, somewhere around 2027. Somewhere around 2027, or it could be sooner, depending on how much lower Bitcoin decides to go. MicroStrategy will either have to Chapter 11 or Chapter 15 their company, because America's not buying. They never were going to buy. They were only going to be using their seized assets. And on the other aspect as well, regarding what I said about MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor trying to shove Bitcoin down other CEOs' throats is what I said as well. So, for example, Michael Saylor tried his best to get Jeff Bezos to buy Bitcoin. Didn't really work. Microsoft to buy Bitcoin. Didn't really work. And then he traveled abroad to India to get executives and CEOs from India to start buying Bitcoin. Because at one point, MicroStrategy has to start selling off their assets. At one particular moment in time, Michael Saylor has to start selling off assets in terms of Bitcoin. And there needs to be people inside of it. And you might be thinking to yourself, there's already a lot of money inside Bitcoin. You know, that doesn't make any sense. There's already too much money in Bitcoin. You know, it has enough liquidity for MicroStrategy to pull out their Bitcoin assets. Has enough liquidity inside. It does. It really does. But when a major company like MicroStrategy or Strategy nowadays decides to pull out of the market space, it raises alarms, which means everybody will try to dump at the exact same time, which will leave MicroStrategy in bankruptcy. But if Michael Saylor can get enough morons to sign up to his plan of buying essentially BTC as executives and CEOs around the world, if he can line up enough morons to hold the bag for him when he dumps in the market space, sooner or later. Honestly, he made the biggest mistake on the planet, which was putting all of his eggs in one basket. He's an incredibly intelligent man. I said this as well. I said the only reason Michael Saylor is incredibly bullish on Bitcoin, the only reason he was incredibly bullish on Bitcoin, he's a businessman, was he was hoping for Trump to use tax-paying money to buy Bitcoin. So then Bitcoin could go to tremendous amounts of, essentially price tags, and then he can sell. That didn't really go to plan. So because of that, Michael Saylor is going to go Chapter 11 or Chapter 15 later on. It's way too soon for him to happen now, unless Bitcoin decides to tank even more. But he's trying to get other CEOs and executives to sign up, line up more morons to hold the bag for him. Because when a company like his decides to sell, it sends off warning bells everywhere. So yes, there is enough liquidity in Bitcoin for him to sell, but yeah. But he's decided to take matters into his own hand. He wants to show the world positivity. Because he doesn't want to sell, because America's not going to be buying taxpayer money using Bitcoin, he's decided to buy more. Good luck to him. Before we go for the next news, which is regarding the European Central Bank, let's go inside the comment section first. XRP, facts, let's go. 777 times 777 XRP, I'm with you there. It's an incredible asset. XRP is an incredible asset. I've said that since day one. 5/11/25, hearing entitled Navigating the Digital Payments Ecosystem, House Financial Services Committee. Also today as well, 5/11. Thank you for the update, G. I didn't saw okay. Miles XRP dropped down to 193. Markets are dropping by the hour. It's an opportunity. You know what's going to happen next. What did I tell everyone on Friday? You know what's going to happen next. So there's no need for panic in any sort of a way. You know what's going to happen next. We are getting closer and closer to regulations, which means the market controllers can milk the market space as much as they want. But I said there's two types of ways of looking inside the market space. The majority of people, when it comes to the market space, they use one particular lens, which is panic mode. And then the intelligent people inside the market space will use the other perspective, which is opportunity. Because you know what's going to happen next, is what I said on Friday as well. I said, for example, an asset like XRP, you know about the contracts, you know about the licensing, you know what's going to achieve, and you know how close we are to regulations. You know it's inside the crypto reserve of a crypto stockpile for the biggest market space in the world. So you can either see it from the lens of opportunity of what's about to happen next, or you could be in a stage of panic mode. It's something I said on Friday. So, but thank you, brother. Thank you for the updates regarding XRP dropping down. Always see the market space from the lens of opportunity, because you know what's going to happen next. XRP was an asset that was being sued by the SEC, but still remained in the top 10. Made it to a crypto reserve. Part of the biggest market space in the world. Incredible massive contracts, incredible amount of licensings. You know what its future is going to be, and you know what's about to be happening next. Regulations. So there's two types of way of looking at the market space. Not saying that you're looking at it from this perspective, funky brother, in any sort of way. There's two perspectives looking for the market space. One perspective is that, which is panic mode, for example. The other perspective you can look at from the market space is opportunity, because you know what's going to happen next. Not saying that you're looking at it from the panic mode situation, funky brother, but thank you for the update. Absolutely correct. Let's go, Thompson. Now, European Central Bank. The European Central Bank is spearheading their CBDC, to put it in the simplest way. They are spearheading their CBDC. Same because of Russia, to be fairly honest as well. They are spearheading those eyelash. Sorry about that. Same as Russia, they're spearheading their CBDCs as well. So here it is. The EU Central Bank recently had some difficulties. And some politicians are coming out and saying, if the European Bank can't control the traditional system, how is it going to control a digital system, for example? EU lawmakers voiced doubts about digital euro after European Central Bank outage. European lawmakers are questioning the European Bank's credibility with the plan to create a digital euro. This comes after a problem with the European Central Bank's current payment system, which caused thousands of families and traders to be late with their payments. With the target T2 payment system broke down at the end of last month, the European Bank's payment system broke down pretty much, which left a lot of people not being able to pay their bills. Banks could not settle deals with each other for almost the whole day. And this was partly because central bank technology initially got the problem wrong. Even though the failure wasn't very bad, it did show the risk that come with putting all essentially the power in one place over digital assets. Some people say that a single point of failure could cause problems for many people, which would defeat essentially the whole point of a digital euros. The European Central Bank is not the only organization working on the digital euro project. Makes this worry even stronger. The European Parliament, the European Commission, and the European Council all need to vote and make decisions on the issue as well. And this marks essentially a more complicated and could cause a delay. Four of the eight groups that make up the European Parliament said that the event essentially made them doubt the European Bank's central essentially ability to carry out its digital euro project. This is because the new payment system will open up to all the people living in the eurozone. For instance, Feber of the European essentially Parliament's party, the largest group inside the current parliamentary, said this instance is a blow to the European Central Bank's credibility. People will ask legitimate questions how the European Central Bank will be able to run a digital euro, for example, when they cannot even keep their day-to-day operations running smoothly. Like Feber, essentially, Anderson is a Green politician who serves as the parliamentary committee that controls essentially the European Central Bank. He said that the central bank needed to win back people's trust in the digital euro or it could fail. Juan, for example, is against the digital euro and says the European Central Bank should prove it can essentially maintain an uninterrupted and secure financial infrastructure before proceeding to go digital. On the other hand, Juicy still essentially supports the launch of digital euros. However, he said that the ECB, the European Central Bank, needs to improve its own systems. A spokesperson for the European Central Bank made it clear that the bank hopes to finish getting ready for the digital euros by October, a deadline that now seems increasingly getting closer. The digital euro was meant to be used alongside cash rather than instead of it. It wasn't meant to meet the growing need for digital payment options while essentially maintaining the security and trustworthiness of central bank money. However, the latest outage has shown that the European Central Bank's current infrastructure, is weak. During this time, the European Central Bank is supposed to test the digital euros, discuss it with different groups, and create rules for it. After the new laws go into force, the European Central Bank's Governing Council will likely decide if they want to make a digital euros or not. The Governing Council is made up of essentially Lagarde and Patten, and other essentially European Central Bank board members, as well as the head of the state central banks. The European Central Bank spokesperson said the recent outage doesn't undermine the robustness of digital euro infrastructure, which is being designed to guarantee that payments continue to function smoothly for users even when technical issues arise. In addition, Christine Lagarde, the president of the European Central Bank, explained that there is a change of leadership. She said Fabio Panter on the board and then Piero, essentially who has replaced Fabio, have taken a lead together with a very good team, which is focused on accelerating the pace and hopefully campaigning enough for all stakeholders, meaning that the European Parliament, European Council, European Commission, so that we can eventually not put to bed, but put to reality this digital euro. So no matter what, the European Central Bank essentially president said it's going to be happening regarding the digital euros and nobody can stop it. If the digital euro project is delayed or scrapped, it will have a huge effects on the economy and finances. Europe might miss the chance to be at the forefront of a digital currency change, giving essentially other countries and private sector projects the upper hand. The European Central Bank needs to move quickly to ease the worries. It is very important to be more open about what's caused the loss, essentially, and what is being done to prevent it from happening again. The European Central Bank also needs to invest money in making its systems more secure. One way to do this could be form of agreements with private technology companies. It is also important to work more closely with privacy experts, financial institutions, and other stakeholders to address essentially their concerns and incorporate their inputs into the design of digital euros over the years. Different people have had different thoughts about digital euros. Should the EU decide to create the digital euro, or it will be essentially going against the US decision not to do so, following the lead of the countries like essentially Bahamas, Jamaica, China, Nigeria, India, and so on, and Russia that already have so. The simplest way to put it is that the European Central Bank's president, Christine Lagarde, has basically said that the European CBDC, the Euro CBDC, is undoubtedly going to happen. And nobody's going to be able to stop it. It's just going to happen. Simplest way to put it. And regarding the traditional banking system that had a failure situation inside the EU, I don't think that was accidental in any sort of way. I think that was to show that we should be moving away from traditional, as in it was a coordinated move to collapse this simple banking situation, to make people realize we need to go to a better financial system. It was a setup, simplest way to put it. But if you're wondering to yourself, are CBDC is going away or so on? No. According to the European Central Bank President, Christian Lagarde, it's going to happen 1 billion% and nobody's going to be able to stop it. Now, what we're going to be talking about next is Deutsche Bank. So, a revolutionary move. Deutsche Bank predicts Bitcoin stake reserves will solidify US crypto leaderships. So Deutsche Bank has came out with their recent, essentially, market-based predictions, you could say. And this is what they said. In a bold prediction that's sending ripples, interesting use of word there, in a bold prediction that's sending ripples through the crypto world, Germany's financial titan, Deutsche Bank, has thrown its weight behind Bitcoin. And you can also say other digital assets in terms of the crypto US reserve stockpile. According to a recent report highlighted, the Deutsche Bank essentially suggests that embracing a Bitcoin stake reserves and a crypto stockpile could be a game changer for the United States. But why? What exactly does this mean? And why is a traditional financial institution like Deutsche Bank so bullish on this idea? So Deutsche Bank's report isn't just essentially another fleeting crypto essentially commentary. It's a essentially reasoned analysis rooted in the current economic realities. The core essentially argument revolves around two major concerns. Mounting inflation fears across the globe, inflation is becoming a growing concern and traditional safe haven assets are essentially being reevaluated, and investors are seeking alternatives to protect their wealth. Dollar deception essentially worries. Concerns about the long-term value of the US dollars are suffering amidst global economic shifts and geopolitical uncertainties. The report draws a compelling parallel to the 20th century when the US dollar's strength was undermined by a massive gold reserve. Deutsche Bank suggests that Bitcoin could play a similar role in the 21st century, acting as essentially a digital gold reserve. Think of this as in this way. Just as gold provided a tangible backing for currencies in the past, Bitcoin, with its decentralized and limited nature, could offer a similar form of security in the digital age. Deutsche Bank argues that accumulating Bitcoin as a stake reserve would signal confidence in the burgeoning cryptocurrency markets and position the US at the forefront of this financial revolution. Deutsche Bank's vision of Bitcoin stake reserves and the crypto stockpile for the United States is undoubtedly transformative. It's a forward-thinking approach that acknowledges the evolving economic landscapes and potentials of digital assets. While challenges remain, the potential benefits of hedge funding against inflation solidify essentially its crypto leadership, and establishing a digital gold standard are too significant to ignore. As the world grapples with economic uncertainties, embracing essentially innovative financial strategies like Bitcoin reserves could be the key to navigating the futures and securing a position of global leaderships in the 21st century. Deutsche Bank basically coming out in the most simplest way and saying that there is a future going forward in Bitcoin in terms of being some sort of reserve asset due to its limited supply and so on. Now, adding a little bit on top of that, groundbreaking move coming out of Singapore. Singapore is thinking about right now, in this particular moment in time when the market is experiencing crucial volatility, Singapore is thinking about introducing or launching Bitcoin futures for institutions. So here it is. The Singaporean exchange, SGX, a major player in the Asian financial markets, is set to dive deeper in the digital asset space. Get ready for a potential game changer as SGX announces its plans to list Bitcoin futures, especially tailored for institutional investors, which again means more capital but more volatility, more manipulation laws. In the latter half of 2024, this move signals a significant step forward in the mainstream adoption of cryptocurrencies, as it essentially highlights Singapore's growing prominence as a hub for digital finance. According to a Bloomberg report, the Singaporean exchange Ltd SGX is gearing up to introduce Bitcoin futures contracts in the second half of 2025. This initiative essentially is aimed at institutional and essentially professional investors, marking a clearer distinction from retail trading. This strict focus essentially means that while the buzz around cryptocurrencies to grow, these specific Bitcoin futures contracts will be exclusively accessible to qualified institutional participants. And before these contracts become available for trading, they are currently awaiting their green light from the Monetary Authority of Singapore. This regulatory step is essentially crucial and underscores the importance of compliance and investor protection in the evolving digital asset landscape. So as the market is going, free fall, Singapore is thinking about entering the market space very soon in terms of offering Bitcoin futures contracts, which is going to cause more volatility but add more capital towards the market space as well. So here's a quick breakdown of what we know. Exchange. Singaporean Exchange Ltd. The product, Bitcoin contracts. Target investors, institutional and professional investors, timeline, second half of 2025. Regulatory status, pending approval from the Monetary Authority of Singapore, and retail investors access restricted. SGX move to list Bitcoin futures first strengthens essentially Singapore's position as a leading hub for digital assets in Asia, and Singapore has been proactive in fostering in terms of an environment for the fintech innovation while maintaining a balanced approach to regulations. This initiative can have several positive impacts. In attracting investors, the availability of Bitcoin futures on SGX can attract more institutional investors in Singapore's digital assets in terms of their ecosystems. This can boost essentially the growth of a local crypto companies and the broader essentially fintech sector. Regional leadership. Singapore can solidify its leadership role in Asian digital asset markets by offering regulated and institutional grade crypto products, and SGX sets a benchmark for other crypto exchanges in the region. Innovation and development. This move can spur essentially further innovation and developments in the digital asset space in Singapore, and it could encourage developments of new crypto products and services tailored to institutional needs. In terms of the institutional market space, is what's happening where Singapore is trying to connect blockchain with institutions inside of their market space after it gets a green light from the Monetary Authority of Singapore. And they're doing all this year. Broader market impact. The success of a Bitcoin futures, starting with Bitcoin futures on SGX, could pave the way for the listing of other cryptocurrencies and derivatives, and potentially even spot crypto trading for institution futures. And the Singapore Exchange plans to launch Bitcoin futures for institutional investors in 2025 is undoubtedly a groundbreaking development. It represents a significant leap forward in the institutional adoption of cryptocurrencies, offering regulated and accessible exposure to digital assets for major financial players. While challenges remain, this initiative underscores the growing maturity of the crypto markets and Singapore's commitments to becoming a leading global hub for digital assets. As we move closer to H2 2025, the crypto world will be watching closely as SGX potentially opens up a new chapter for institutional involvements in Bitcoin and beyond. So Singapore is getting ready to, in terms of the institutional space, to connect it to the crypto space in the second half of 2024. They're getting ready for that. The Monetary Authority of Singapore has to give it a green light. What that means is once it gets this green light, more capital towards the market space from Singaporean institutions. More capital means essentially more manipulation. More money from institutions equals to more manipulation. Again, it goes back to the factor of no regulations. But it adds more capital towards the market space. And it is a great move to see, more countries adapting this idea of connecting institutions to the blockchain space, which is what we want in the first place. But we also want regulations to be there as well. Now, El Salvador and Paraguay are coming together on the topic of regulations. More countries are lining up for the, bringing out some sort of regulations to the crypto space. El Salvador and Paraguay forged a landmark crypto regulation pact. In a significant move for Latin America, crypto regulations, El Salvador and Paraguay have officially joined hands. This isn't just another headline, it's a strict alliance that could reshape the cryptocurrency landscape in the region. Both El Salvador and Paraguay have been making headlines in the cryptocurrency world for different reasons. El Salvador famously adopted Bitcoin as legal tender in 2021, a move that sparked global debate and essentially drew both praises and criticisms. This bold step essentially positioned El Salvador as a pioneer and a controversial one at embracing essentially digital currencies at a nation level back then. And Paraguay, on the other hand, has been essentially exploring its potential as a global crypto hub particularly leveraging an inexpensive, essentially hydroelectric power for crypto mining operations. While not adopting Bitcoin essentially as legal tender, Paraguay has shown significant essentially interest in harnessing the economic opportunities presented by the crypto industry. However, this interest comes with the responsibility of establishing a robust regulatory framework to manage risk and ensure compliance. The essentially MOU is this MOU is the next essentially logical step for both countries to have. For El Salvador, it's about reinforcing its commitments to responsible crypto regulations and demonstrating international corporations. For Paraguay, its opportunity to learn from El Salvador's experience and strengthen its own regulatory essentially foundation as it aims to become a more crypto-friendly nation. This collaboration offers a range of potential advantages for both countries and broader cryptocurrency essentially ecosystems. Enhanced regulatory clarity. By working together, El Salvador and Paraguay can contribute essentially to developing clearer and more consistent regulatory standards for cryptocurrency industries in Latin America. This clarity is crucial for attracting legitimate businesses and fostering innovation, because that's what happens when you have regulations. Stronger AML frameworks, joint efforts to combat essentially money laundering in the crypto space will make both nations more secure and compliant for international standards. This can essentially also enhance their credibility and attract more responsible investments. Attracting legitimate crypto businesses, a well-regulated environment backed by international corporation can make El Salvador and Paraguay more attractive destinations for reputable essential cryptocurrency companies looking to expand in Latin America. Promoting essentially responsible innovation. The exchange of knowledge and best practices can help both countries foster innovation in the crypto space while mitigating essentially potential risk, and this balanced approach is key to sustainable growth. And the relationship leadership in crypto regulations. This alliance essentially positions El Salvador and Paraguay as a potential leaders in shaping crypto regulations within Latin American countries. Their collaborative approach could inspire other nations in the region to follow in suit, which it definitely will, to work together or in terms of a similar initiatives. It's great to see this is happening. It's also another indication of not only is the US trying to aim for the regulation, essentially for having regulations out of crypto space, or the EU tried to have regulations out of crypto space. Latin American countries are joining together to bring in regulations inside the market space as well. Another indication of how close we are to regulations, which means the market space can be milked as much as it wants by the hedge funds or any other whales out there that are manipulating the market space the hell out of it right now. Because what's happening next is regulations, which means they can milk the market space as much as they want now, but they can't do it later on. Because when utility kicks in, that's pretty much it for those types of projects to be manipulated. Projects that have no utility obviously could still be manipulated. Be difficult, but still manipulate them. Be easier manipulation than essentially projects that have utility. Now, before we go through the Ripple news, let's go to the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down in the comment section. I'm more than happy to answer the questions you may have. So let's see what's the second position. Miles, wow, BTC dropped to $76,000. Well, Michael Saylor is definitely not going to be laughing about that. No, but thank you for the update, Shelly. Honestly. Just goes back to, they can milk it as much as they want regarding the market space, but regulation is very close. Now, Ripple's CEO praises Trump's administration for strong crypto support. Ripple CEO Brad highlights a landmark for crypto, praising essentially the White House essentially engagements and regulatory discussions and industry collaborations, while urging unity for fair regulations and legislative progress inside the United States. So, regarding that White House crypto summit that happened, and regarding how positive Trump is towards cryptocurrencies, regarding how positive the SEC, the CFTC, the OCC, the CFPB, the FDIC have all become towards crypto assets, and they're all trying to come together to create some sort of regulations for the market space ASAP. Ripple CEO is praising Trump's efforts. A lot of people inside the crypto space are, going against Trump and saying Trump ruined the crypto market space. Trump is ruining the market space. I've lost so much money because of Trump. The reality of it is, Trump is trying to actually fix the market space. So these are hurdles we would have to go through for him to be able to fix the market space. If you want regulations, then stuff like this is going to be happening. Because regulations are a threat to people that can manipulate the market space. So before regulations come in, which they're very close to coming in, whales, hedge funds, and so on, get to milk the market space one last time before regulations come in. And while milking the market space, it makes regular people inside the market space, the retail section, think that Trump is the one ruining the market space. But in reality, Trump is the one that's trying to fix the market space. It's just you're having difficulty, not everyone, but some people are having difficulty on seeing the bigger picture when it comes to Trump. He's actually trying to fix the market space, not ruin it. Brad, Ripple's CEO, but again, just goes back to that psychological warfare. Brad, the CEO of Ripple, shared his views on this historic happenings and so far what essentially Trump has achieved. According to him, these include the first ever White House Crypto Summit, the US Commodities Futures Trading Commission, CFTC CEO Roundtable. Brad is saying all of these things are happening because of Trump. Ripple's CEO is saying the SEC is pro-crypto because of Trump. The CFTC is pro-crypto because of Trump. CFPB, OCC, FDIC, White House Crypto Summits, it's all because of Trump, is what the CEO of Ripple is saying. And he's saying these are all positive, not negatives. But again, it just goes back to what I said. The entire market space goes red or green is because it's the same investors. And they can make good news look like bad news by dumping on the market space, in which makes your perception of reality think that is a bad thing. Now, it goes on to say essentially, regarding the White House Crypto, the first ever White House Crypto Summit, the US Commodities Futures Trading Commission, CFTC CEO roundtables, it was a turning point considering regulations whereby cryptocurrency leaders and policymakers have come together to frame the future for the industry. Brad pointed out to the growing emphasis on the present administration on providing clarity through regulation, especially using congressional action. He spoke of the top priorities, establishing essentially a Bitcoin reserve and a crypto essential stockpile and a crypto stash while essentially innovating government-backed stablecoins against the US Treasury assets. This, he noted, signified essentially a new direction taken by the administrative regarding supporting towards a cooperation with crypto industries as that were opposed to previous practices. Brad was also optimistic about these developments and said that he was pleased with essentially what the White House has achieved, what Trump has achieved so far. He said, I was very glad to see the overwhelming support from this administration. He asserted that the new kind of openness towards digital assets could well provide for a more stable and predictable regulatory environment, so that the confidence in one's ability to do business would be higher. Brad extended his gratitude towards Donald Trump for engaging with the crypto industry leaders and fostering decisions on regulatory frameworks. He also recognized the White House AI and crypto Caesar David Sachs and Bo Hines, essentially executive director of the President Council of the Advisory on Digital Assets, for their roles in organizing the crypto summit. So, as you know, there are people inside the retail section who are inside the crypto space who are criticizing Trump's movements inside the market space and calling it trash and saying Trump is the reason Trump is the reason that they're losing money inside the crypto space. Trump is trying to ruin the crypto space. And then you have a CEO of a company like Ripple who actually experienced being hindered and stifled. And this man is coming out and saying Trump is trying to save the market space, see the bigger picture. These discussions, according to Brad, represent a major shift in how regulators and lawmakers perceive cryptocurrencies. The presence of key decision makers at these events demonstrated a willingness to integrate digital essential assets into the broader financial systems rather than diminish them as speculative or unregulated essential instruments. The CEO of Ripple urged the crypto communities to disband over internal rivalries and focus on common objectives. Notably, the plea for essentially transparent regulations, he also retreated that they will, as they always have, be the voice for what level playing field looks like, underscoring the need for industry-wide collaborations towards driving essentially necessary legislations in the US. And Brad's comments speak for every growing momentum towards mainstream accessibility and regulatory clarity around digital currencies, with the government interest in everything from proposed reserves of Bitcoin to regulated stablecoins. The industry is witnessing a tipping point on how policymakers view crypto-related policy making. Much debate continues within the crypto communities, hopeful that such engagements will eventually lead to clearer engagements, more precisely defined legal essentially architecture, and essentially a wider institutional acceptance of digital assets in the country. Such attachments should they materialize, would put the US in line with the world leaders in the sphere of blockchain technology and digital assets. So again, going back to what I said essentially and what Brad is saying as well, pretty much in the same lines, It's psychological warfare is what's really going on inside the market space. Even Brad is saying that, because people inside the retail section are a bit lost. Genuinely, people inside the retail section when it comes to the crypto section are lost. If you actually believe that Trump is trying to ruin the market space, Trump is trying to ruin crypto, Trump is trying to take away the crypto market space, he's trying to damage the market space, he isn't. You're just not seeing the bigger picture. Trump is trying to regulate the market space, which means regulations equals utility. And if utility happens, then manipulation is going to become very difficult for projects that have utility. So therefore, before we go into utility, institutions or hedge funds or essentially whales are going to manipulate the hell out of the market space as much as they can. They're going to milk it in every direction because even they know how close we are to regulations. And people who are saying Trump is ruining the market space, he's ruined my profits, Trump is ruining crypto for everyone. Even Brad, the CEO of Ripple, if we're going to talk about any company that's been hindered the most, that's been stifled the most, it's Ripple that's been stifled the most, not your crypto portfolios, to be fairly honest. Ripple has been stifled the most. Even Brad is acknowledging what Trump is doing is all positive. And all these things shouldn't be happening inside the market space in this way. Even Brad is pointing out to people inside the retail section, inside the crypto space, that Trump is trying to save the market space. He's trying to regulate the market space. He's trying to bring out regulations. He's trying to make the market space transparent. He's trying to stop all of this manipulation inside the market space. He's trying to regulate it so institutions can enter the market space in a legal framework. And he said the CFTC, the SEC, and all these governmental organizations are all pro-crypto because of Trump. That's the bigger picture a lot of people are missing. Trump is not trying to ruin the crypto space. He's trying to save it. But you're having difficulties to see the bigger picture because what you're doing is looking at the tip of your nose. Look bigger. Look beyond the tip of your nose and you'll see the bigger picture. Even Brad is seeing the bigger picture. But there are people inside the retail section who think Trump is trying to ruin the crypto market space. He's trying to save it. But because of the whales and the hedge funds and so on, the amount of control they have inside the market space, they make good news look like bad news. Because even Brad was confused on why the market space reacted the other way. When the White House Crypto Summit happened, the first ever White House Crypto Summit happened, when they talk about transparency and all these positive things about the crypto space, and the market reacted negatively like that across the board. Guess who you think controls the market space to make the entire market space go across the board red? It's psychological warfare. They can make good news look like bad news look like good news, which will play with your mindset, which you will presume that this must be good news, that this must be bad news, depending on price points. What you should be defining it on is what's happening, not the price points. Because the price can be manipulated, but contracts and licensings cannot. So if you'd be able to tell the difference, you'll be able to understand the bigger picture. Simplest way to put it, market space on a free fall, it's okay. Because we know what's going to happen next. It's regulations, which means they can milk the hell out of it if they want now. But Trump is trying to save the market space, not ruin it. Many CEOs know this, so the retail section should understand this as well. And if Brad, the CEO of a company, a blockchain company, Ripple, that's been stifled and hindered the most, even understands that Trump is trying to save the market space, then you should obviously too. Because if we're going to talk about anyone, essentially, if we're going to be talking about anyone inside the market space being stifled the most and went through the most amount of headache, went through the most amount of essentially damage and so on, it's Brad. Brad got impacted the most out of everything. Even he's coming out and saying Trump is trying to save the market space. Wake up, people. Trump is trying to save the market space. We have to go through this to come out the other side, which is regulations. So stop getting essentially confused with psychological warfare and being genuine on this. Stop focusing on the big picture. On that note, we have come to the endings of tonight's live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, this was the CMF Live. It stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles. This was episode 277 of the CMF Live. CMF, can you do one thing for me? CMF members that are watching right now, can you do one thing for me? Can you all collectively go to X on my profile on X? Collectively, everyone, if you can, if you do have the time, go to my profile on X, go to Century Crypto Mouse family, go to Crypto Mouse portfolio profile on X, and retweet my recent tweet, which is regarding this live that we're watching right now, where I said, join us on YouTube because X is having difficulties, and I put a link to the live you're watching right now. Retweet on that tweet, comment on that tweet, like that tweet, and like the retweet the actual live on X as well, so that people on X know where to watch the live, the repeat of the live, when this live ends. So CMF members, if you do get a chance straight after the live, go to X, go to my profile, like, retweet, and comment on my recent tweet where I tell people to go and watch this live on YouTube because X is having difficulties. So that everybody knows where to watch this live that they just missed out on. Thank you so much to everybody that's doing that right now. Honestly, I'm getting notifications already. And like the original live as well, if you can, and put a comment as well. Good night, Miles and CMF. Mike, let's go see you tomorrow, but at the same time as usual. We have come to the endings of tonight's live as well. Everybody, CMF, honestly, thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you so much to everybody that's just listened to my message and started liking the live as well, and my recent tweet about the difficulties on X. Outstanding show. Take care all. We got you, brother. Let's go, Ray. Thank you so much for that. Good night, Miles, and all the CMF. Thanks for your news and great live. Unfortunately, I couldn't do any comment on the next night. No problem, JP, at all. Done. Patricia, thanks so much for that. Thank you so much for that, Patricia. I reposted this live on X. Hope it helps. Have a great night, and thanks for the words of wisdom. See you tomorrow, same time. Autistic, thank you so much for that as well. Honestly, thank you so much for that to everyone who's done that. Absolutely incredible. I can see the lives and I can see the likes and retweets going up. Thank you so much to everyone for doing that. Thanks again. Good night all. Stormy, let's go. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. See everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual. Thompson, see you tomorrow sometime as usual as well. Thank you for that. Thanks, Miles, and good night, CMF. Peg, let's go see you tomorrow sometime as usual as well. I will be seeing everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual, 11:25 p.m. UK time. I'm aware that the UK has I'm aware that the US time has went forward 1 hour because JP let me know. Thank you for that, JP. So I'm aware that the US time has went forward an hour. So always remember, no matter which country you live in, the live show, the CMF live show will always, so even if your clocks go 1 hour forward or 1 hour back, the live show will always start UK time 11:30. So even if your countries go 1 hour back or 1 hour forward in terms of time, always remember UK time 11:30. No matter if your hours go back or forward, it's always UK time 11:30. But thank you for that as well. Let me know, JP. Don, thanks, Legend. Night and day, CMF. Let's go. Shelly, thanks so much for that as well. I will be seeing everybody tomorrow. Same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you're around the world. And hopefully X's situation is fixed with their hacking situation on X. I'll see everybody tomorrow, same time as usual for episode 278. See you tomorrow, CMF. Same time as usual.